So up next, we have Jay, who will be bringing to us generating long stories with Cohere's API. So I'm really looking forward. Can we write whole books in Cohere? Can we generate really, really, really long, cool stuff? Is the future of writing essays and doctorates and bachelor theses and master degrees over for so many suffering students all around the world? Hopefully, Cohere will bring us a step forward. So Jay, the floor is yours, and I'll leave it up to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? It's great.
Yes, we can.
Okay, my voice is going out, and except if anybody stops me. Thank you so much. That was a great introduction to what I'm about to speak about. So my name is Jay. I work at Cohere, and I work on helping our developer community understand the best uses of the models for their use cases. And today I'll be discussing one of the most exciting, I think, uses of language models that I know of. And it, just like what was mentioned just now, it involves a bunch of different types of AI. So we'll talk about text, but we'll talk about image generation as well. Now, stories are a little difficult to create something that really works. That's why this one paper that came out of DeepMind this year was, to me, one of the most interesting papers, and I've been going over it quite a bit the last few weeks, and I'm happy to take you through it and the methodology it explains to you of how you can generate a story, how you can have AI help you generate a story and help you flesh out the ideas in your head. And it's a method that can generate an entire screenplay just by you describing your story in 2 or 3 sentences. But the beauty of it is if you use the AI as something that extends you, something that empowers your thinking and your ideas, you can let it generate the entire thing, but then you can also use it as something that triggers your mind, and you can edit the suggestions that it gives to you. So with that, let me start by sharing my screen here. And I would love to be sure that everybody is able to see it. Okay. So this is the paper. It's called Co-Writing Screenplays and Theater Scripts with Language Models. It's really interesting, and I've extracted the prompts and the methodology of it so you can actually go through it yourself and generate these stories with Cohere's models. You can go to Cohere notebooks. So if you search just on Google Cohere notebooks, you find this our notebooks repo on GitHub. Again, that's Cohere-AI notebooks. And you can scroll to the bottom, notebook number 11, and that will open up this Jupyter notebook. This is this environment where you don't need to install anything. You just need a browser with your laptop. You go in and you can interact with these models. Like you're going to need API keys for Cohere and potentially for stability if you want to create images. But I'll run you through this demo. So once you go to 11 and click the collab, you'll have an image, have this page open up with a lot of the example code. This is a general idea of how that story is generated, how this methodology of generating stories with language models is generated. Now, if you've used large GPT models, you might think that it's just something like this, or maybe kind of like this, where you have the playground and you add the prompt to telling the model to generate a story, and then you have the model generate it. And so your input prompt goes inside the language model, and then you have the output and the model generated. And that could work for shorter stories, but for longer stories, it's probably not the best way to go about it. And it's not what a lot of authors actually do. A lot of them have an idea, have an outline that they don't start until they sort of flesh it out. And that's kind of what the approach is here. And so the idea here is that the first building block that we need is the log line. So you need to describe your story in maybe 2 or 3 sentences. And then from that, we'll use it to generate all sorts of really cool things. And so once we have the description of your short description of the story, we can generate a title, we can generate characters, we can generate the plot, and then the location descriptions, and then each scenes. So to do this, we first get to install Cohere and the Stability SDK. So this is to use Stable Diffusion. You can use Stable Diffusion other ways. You can download it and run it inside, but this is potentially the easiest way to get started with it. And then there's some code here that does some setup. This will ask you for your Cohere API key and your Stability API key, so you're able to use the AIs hosted or at Cohere and that Stability to generate this text from Cohere and the story and the images from Stability. Now, this is the log line. So this is the short description of the story. What I wrote here is a sci-fi cyberpunk story about 2 hackers who find themselves both the targets of a cyber intelligence agent who suspects them of stealing $3.5 million worth of Bitcoin. The 2 do not know each other, and neither of them recalls stealing the sum. So this is just a very short description of the story, and then we'll have the AI sort of, blow it up. So the first thing we can do is just run this code to get suggestions for the title. And you can open this to see what the prompt looks like. So you can always look at the code and fiddle with it. But I'll just run you through the actual output of the model. So here you have 5 different suggested titles. Hackers, unauthorized access, 3.5 million. You can run it again to get 5 more suggestions. Until you sort of find a title that you are happy with. So this is a little radical here. Cyber war. You have all kinds of options, and you can generate more and more as you like. We can glance really quickly at the prompt. So the prompt has a couple of examples, and then it just plugs in the description of the story here. And the examples are short descriptions of other stories and the titles of those films. And this is the formula that is used to for all of the prompts. But then let's say you like one of these titles, and then we end up kind of like here. So we have our log line, we wrote it, and then we have our title, we like it. We can continue to generate characters. Now notice that we know that we have 2 hackers and an agent, but we don't have any names yet, and we don't have any descriptions. So what can we do here? Can we have some help from the model to generate characters or ideas for characters that can carry this story forward? Now the model is going and generating this in the background. We can take another quick look. So it's an example, and this is an example from Star Wars, where we have, let's say, 5 characters, and each character has a description as well. So this is the first suggested list of characters from the model. So we have hacker number 1. So white hat hacker, newbie to the dark web, and then hacker 2. We still don't have names, but we have descriptions for them. There's a Bitcoin locker, which is a virus. Okay, so that is adding a little bit of an interesting idea to the story. And then you have some more information about the agent. Suspicion. Okay, suspicion is a specific character here, it seems. So if you like any of these ideas, you can just, so I like, let's say, Bitcoin locker. So I like this idea of a virus. So I would maybe copy it and paste it somewhere else. But you can generate more and get some more ideas, and you get a new host of characters. And look, the AI is there just to extend you and just to give you ideas. And you will pick and choose and see what makes sense. What is the story that you really want to tell? And then here we have, let's say, another suggested list of characters. So this is kind of what we did in the beginning. So we have the title generation prompt, and we give it the log line, and we pass that through the language model, and that gave us, let's say, 3 suggested titles. And then what we're doing now is we're generating suggested characters as well, using a prompt as well. So now we have, let's say, this 3 different characters. We can continue. So we have Gen Z, who is a programmer, lives with her family. We have Jared, system admin, and we have Harry, cryptocurrency expert. So now we can, create some visuals with Stable Diffusion. And to do this, we get some styles. So this is a part of how to do prompt engineering for image generation, is we want things to look nice. And to get some suggestions, we can go to Lexica, which has a lot of examples of prompts. And I just copied 2 of them here. So to create this image prompt, we just take one of the descriptions of one of our characters here. And then we just add the style prompt to it. So I'll show you a quick example here. So a programmer and hardware hacker, she lives with her family in an eco-commune. So this is, let's say, the description of our character. And these are suggested, let's say, generated images for the character. Now, you need to do a little bit of prompt work, because these prompts are a little long. We can take away parts of it that are not, let's say, visual, or don't add any visual information to the image generation model. So, for example, where they live, we can cut out that part and just have this part as part of the prompt. And again, just like we did with the stories, we can generate again until we find something that we like. Here I'm having for each character, I'm generating 3 potential images. And with prompt engineering for image generation, you can say, okay, I want maybe a portrait of that character. So maybe we can say, okay, so this is a portrait, and there are 2 styles. We can try the other style here by changing this one and seeing if that what kinds of images that sort of yields. And so here you have these pictures of your character, and maybe they just trigger for you as the creator, as the writer, some thoughts about who this character is, how do they fit in terms of how you see them. We can do this with the other characters as well. So we just go to the 3rd character. So this is a little bit of what we did here, is that okay, so I love that this has an actual Bitcoin part in the image. So that's surprising. So what we're doing here is that, okay, we have the prompt, and then we have the suggestions for the how the characters would look, and we like maybe one of them, and so we add that to our let's say list of information that we have about our story. So we started with 2 sentences. Now we have 3 characters. We have pictures of all of them, and then we can proceed. Now, the main meat of a story is just the plot. What happens. So we have the 3 sentence description, but how can we get a longer one? And stories really follow a specific formula. This is the most commonly used. It's very popular structure of stories where it's called the hero's journey, where you start in an ordinary world. The protagonist, the hero of the story, gets a call to adventure. They refuse the call. They meet a mentor. So this is like, most films or stories that you come across fit this in a specific way. And we have a prompt that sort of generates all of these. And so we can, again, using our log line, we have this prompt that you can read here if you want, and it's pretty long. But that generates the structure of our story. And we'll have one suggestion for how this story works over 6 or 7 scenes that follow this this hierarchical, let's say, structure of stories that makes them interesting to us as people. So, all right, we have this might not stop us. So, but I can run you through this really quick. So we have, this is, let's say, the first scene. This is where it takes place. So it's in a cyber cafe on a ferry boat crossing the river. And then this is the ordinary world. And so what happens in the first scene? The two are strangers with a narrator on her way to visit family in a commune in the Northwest. And then you can continue to see sort of, it wrote a first scene. And then what happens in the call to adventure? They receive an email, one of them by her online persona, one by, and then so on and so forth. Like it goes through and builds, how do they refuse the call? What do they decide not to do? The kinds of trials and tribulations that they have. And this stops at about 6. The prompt can go up until, let's say, 11 pieces, but for this demo, I made it a little bit shorter. So it gives you a sneak peek of how to, let's say, generate the story. And so, yeah, now you can see how our story went from just being this, 2-3 sentences to characters to 6 or 7 scenes to the people that or the images of the characters that we've seen. And then from there, we can take it to the next level, which is describing the locations. So this is something, for example, I've generated previously. Or yeah, we can use this. So we can generate descriptions of these scenes. So this is a place, right? An apartment in Seattle, and then a car dealership. We can have the model, the next prompt writes a description for this place, for this location. And it can be like this. So an apartment in Washington, the description of this place is that it's a sparsely furnished, smoke-filled brick apartment, lights are off. So now more and more, it's fleshing out your story. And if you like this, you use it. If you don't like it, you can rewrite it. Just like what we did with characters, we can visualize this as well. So we can, let's say, take that description of that location and we add a location, let's say a style, image style prompt to it, and generate some images. Let's see how that works. And length is an issue here. Like the issue with Stable Diffusion is that it allows only for about 77 tokens. Maybe version 2 allows for a little bit more. But then we can see here that it didn't really get to the interesting parts of, let's say, the style. So it's not highly stylized yet, but it's just an image description. But you can, that's why I have this code here where you can edit it and add to it, let's say, the style that you want. And I think we will stop here. There's one more prompt in the end that generates the dialogue for each scene. But then this is just a quick look at how you use the latest and greatest in AI on both the text side and image side to just unleash your creativity, to tell better stories, to tell the stories that you feel inside, even if you're not a writer. This just use the AI to help you and extend you. Thank you so much. I hope this was useful.
Yes, Jay, absolutely. It was phenomenal. I have some questions, so please stay with us. As the chat has been dying to know, we've got Hamada asking, if you try it again, should it give you another story? So with the exact same prompts, would it give a different story or would it give the same story over and over?
It will give you different stories because there's a sense of randomness involved in the models. Like you can change the temperature to, if you change the temperature to 0, it will always give you the same thing. But usually we set the temperature, which is a parameter of the language model, to a higher value where there is randomness, which enables some creativity. And like for a use case like this, you need higher temperature values of between 0.7 to 1, where the creativity of the model is important and the diversity in what the model generates adds more interesting ideas.
Okay, Jay, another question we have. Do you know any commercial projects that are currently generating content like this or that work with generating content like this?
So there's an entire industry for generating text. We just saw companies like Jasper, Copy AI. That's an entire industry around generating articles, blog posts from using language models. Now, with image generation, those models are fairly new. Stable Diffusion only came out in August. Dolly was on a wait list before that, but it's absolutely certain that it's going to change media in a massive way. And like the best ideas of companies are still in the mind of somebody. Maybe one of you is going to create, the next Google using these technologies, because this is just so early in the life of these technologies that now is the right time to just play around with them, understand the capabilities, deploy them in different industries. So that's why I find it really exciting.
Fantastic. And obviously, we've seen the Stable Diffusion application there where you've taken it a step further. Not only did you generate the story, but you also generated the art aids for imagining it a little bit better. And Susanna is asking, is it possible to make automatic illustrations to existing stories like books? So can we upload a whole book and have you generate illustrations based on Stable Diffusions, for example, for the characters?
Yes, absolutely. And I've done that with one of my favorite books. I just went over the first chapter and I was just reading it and, pointed out where the story was describing a scene. Because, a lot of the stories are dialogue, a lot of them are but sometimes what is called world building, where they describe a city or a location or a set or a character. Like you can take that out and put it into Stable Diffusion. But then you can also pair it with parts of style. So, for prompt engineering, for images, you can say, okay, this is, I don't know, trending on ArtStation. This is, high res portrait of a specific. And so when I think about image generation prompts, there's the subject and there's the style. And the book can give you the subject, and things like Lexica can give you the style that you like, and you can pair the two together.
Incredible. I have to say that this technology is really mind-blowing in the sense that I'm really looking forward to how my children will learn how to write in school, because I can see this completely changing how we're doing. Like the transition from written word to Word and to Excel was a big step. But this is going to be that times 3, I think. And it's going to be super, super cool to see what we're capable of in a few years. Jay, thank you so much. That presentation itself, a whole beautiful lecture on really long story generation. Let's keep proceeding with the stream. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Thank you so much.